name is Brenda Moen, and I am on the Worship Arts Committee, which is how I get to come up here and welcome you. And it's one of the many ways that I volunteer and give back to GRU. Doug and I have been attending here since 2018, and our lives are richer for it. There are so many ways, besides coming to the service, to get involved in the life of this congregation. Start by looking at the tab, the newsletter, and find something this week or this month and come out. I think you'll find what Doug and I have found, that there are so many ways to spend time with some really nice people. Oh, that's right, yes, and of course attend the service. For us, the Sunday service is an anchor in our week. I don't know about you other retirees out there, but it really helps me to remember that this is Sunday, because the other days. So, another good reason to attend. Anybody else out there have that problem? Is it? I don't know how many times Doug and I say, "Is it Tuesday? Is it?" Anyway, and I invite you to, or everyone, to join us for coffee and conversation after the service. It's a great time to meet Groosters and to ask questions. In the words of Rachel Hayes, welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th, it's hard to say, Sunday, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders, and we are all growing, all learning, and all loved. Just as you are welcome here. We have a few announcements. The first one is to remind you that we have this pile of rice growing. We still have room for more, and we are collecting it until American Thanksgiving at the end of the month. And Kristen has an announcement.
Hello, everyone. Today, after the service, there will be a few people in the lounge downstairs ready to answer the question, what's in the box? Now, what is the box? It's the puberty box. And it's a great tool that we use in the grade 4 to 6, or in this case 4 to 7, OWL class, which is Our Whole Lives. And we teach the kids about puberty, changes in their body, relationships, respect, consent, all sorts of things. But one of the fun things is the visual show and tell of the box with the stuff in it. So if you would like to see what's in the box, if you have a kid who is currently in grade 4 to 7, or even kids of other ages, and you don't know about the Our Whole Lives program, which has curriculums at levels all the way from junior kindergarten through older adult. If you'd like to learn more about the program, there will be 4 of us in the lounge. It's just a drop-in, come in and ask questions, see the box, whatever. Children are welcome with parents, so at your discretion, right? They might see things. And it will be me. We're all wearing owls. Judith Keller, Diana Smith, and Dahmer. Will the 3 of you please stand up? We 4 will be in the lounge. So come on out.
Thank you. And Andrea has an announcement as well.
Hello. Hi. I'm here again to remind everybody about Dream Auction. It's coming up very soon. We've requested that the events all be submitted by November 11th, I believe. So that's like just over a week, or is it? Yeah, it's very soon. So there's lots of exciting events up there. There's about 25 or so you can go to the website, grudreamauction.ca, and check it out, and then submit your own as well. If you have any questions, or you don't have any idea, if you need ideas for events, just ask me. I can come up with some ideas. We have some ideas on the website as well. And That's it. It's basic. Oh, what do you want to say?
Yay! Dream action!
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
Good morning. Wow, okay. My name is Colin Read, and I'm delighted to be here today to share my ideas and thoughts on the voices and ideas of some wonderful, insightful individuals. Take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. Be here, now, in this present moment. As you breathe in and out, feel the ground beneath your feet, the warmth of your heart, the pure open sky of your clear mind, and in the space of light and love, let us be here together. I want to start by talking about Band-Aids, not the literal ones, but the use of short-term fixes to address serious issues. We held a fundraiser for the Better Tent City this spring. We did well, and we surpassed our goal and provided equipment and hope for 50 or so people living in a precarious situation. But it was a Band-Aid, a very necessary Band-Aid, a deeply appreciated Band-Aid, but still a Band-Aid. It did nothing to address the long-term needs of the people that live there, nor the underlying conditions that led them to be there. We use Band-Aids all the time to patch serious issues. Sewage on the beach in Toronto? Well, just build a longer pipe into Lake Ontario. Climate change making cities hotter? Well, just mandate that all apartments have air conditioning. Plastic garbage patches in the ocean? Well, we can ban plastic straws. The list goes on. The critical questions are the ones that cause us to look at why there is a need for Band-Aids and how to stop the metaphorical injuries from occurring in the first place. So sit back as we begin to explore a tale of two stories. Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek. Just dispelling gloom. its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds which link us to all people. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Please, people of all ages, come join me and Rosemary for a wonderful story. A story with two different endings. In the middle of the sea, there was an island. And on this island lived Milo and the other cliff mice. They loved their island. It provided them with food and shelter and protection from the rough storms that pounded the waves against the cliffs. During the summer, Milo and his friends worked hard gathering food. Sometimes they would take a break from their work and skip flat stones over the sea. In the evening, the mice would stretch out on the cliffs that had been warmed by the sun, and they would watch the stars in the night sky. If it was warm enough, they would spend the entire night outside telling stories and enjoying the mild summer air. But when the first winter storms arrived, the mice would spend most of their time huddled in their dark, damp caves, dreaming of light and warmth. After one of these storms, Milo crept out of his cave looking for food. He poked his nose curiously into every crevice. Then, in a particularly deep crevice, he saw something extraordinary. A strange, glowing stone. Using a long stick, he carefully pried it out and carried it back to his cave. Milo was amazed to see that the darker it got, the more brightly the stone glowed. And not only did it provide light, it gave off a comforting warmth. Happily, Milo curled up in a corner of his cave with his treasure. But he was not alone for long, because the bright light soon attracted the other mice. Everybody wanted a stone of their own, and they asked Milo to show them where they had found his. But just as they were about to set off, wise Balthazar stood up and spoke. "Don't forget," he said, "the stones belong to the island. If you take something from the island, you must give something in return." There's two endings to this story. The first one is, only Milo heard Balthazar's warning. He immediately began thinking about what gift he could give to the island. But the other mice hurried off to find the glowing stones. They squeezed into the tunnel and started digging wildly. Using sharp rocks, they chipped away at the walls of the tunnel. They tossed the smallest stones aside. They wanted only the biggest ones. Then the mice dragged the glowing stones into their caves. They grew greedy and jealous and spent so much time worrying about who had the most stones that they couldn't even enjoy the comfort that the stones had brought them. Milo watched his friends sadly. He worried about what Balthazar had said and wondered what would happen. He sighed. There was nothing he could do but to get back to work on the gift that he had thought of to give to the island. Soon, the mice decided they needed more and more of the magical stones. They crept back into the tunnel and dug day and night, piling the magical stones in and around their caves until the whole island glowed. They boasted about their stones and argued about who had the most, the biggest, and the brightest. The mice were consumed with greed, and as they dug deeper and deeper, the walls of the mountain got thinner and thinner. Before long, the mountain was hollowed out completely. Then suddenly, there was a thunderous roar, and the mountain collapsed. Giant boulders fell, burying the tunnels in a heap of rubble. Waves pounded against the shore, flooding most of the island. Only one cave was left. Inside, Milo and Balthazar crouched trembling in a corner. "The stones could have brought such happiness," said Balthazar quietly. As he spoke, Milo went back to work, carving a stone to give to the island in thanks for its magical gift. However, there is another ending to the story. Instead, "Balthazar is right," said Milo. But what could Milo give to the island? He thought about it for many days until at last he had an idea. He went down to the shore where the sea washed up all kinds of stones and looked for one that was about the same size as the one he had taken. He sat down and started chipping away with a stone. Curious, the other mice gathered round. Milo worked for hours until he had carved a beautiful sun into his stone. Then Milo led his friends to the hidden crevice of the mountain and put his carved stone in the place where he had taken out the glowing stone. The other mice began digging. Directly below the crevice, they found a tunnel that ran deep into the mountain. The further into the mountain they went, the more glowing stones they found. Each mouse took one and carried it carefully home. Then, like Milo, they found ordinary stones along the shore and started to decorate them. Some mice carved, etched, or drew on the stones. Others wrapped them or decorated them with flowers, leaves, or roots. They created beautiful works of art, then carried them deep into the mountain and placed their gifts where they had found the glowing stones. From then on, the winter weather did not bother the mice, who snuggled happily in their bright, warm caves. Often they got together and told stories, just like they did in the summertime. These gatherings made the long, cold nights seem shorter and the winter less damp and dark. Every year, the mice celebrated the beginning of winter. They met in Balthazar's cave and danced and sang. When it got dark, they took the magical stones out on a parade along the cliffs as a special tribute to their beloved island. And that's the second ending.
I think it's important from time to time to think about those who came before us and those who worked to build this congregation. And I liked what Alice Akacheka Naisman had to say. Let us take a moment to honor the ancestors of this church, the people who first came together to create a home for liberal education here in Waterloo Region, who worked to raise money for a building, who sat in committee meetings, created bylaws, who chopped and marinated and baked for supers and potlucks, who painted and weeded and pounded nails and washed countless dishes, who gathered to worship, to learn, to grieve, to heal, to serve, to build justice, to transform their lives and this world. We are the recipients of an incredible gift and a beautiful vision. Let us do our part to keep this congregation strong, vital, and thriving for the generations to come. The morning offering will now be gratefully received.
I heard a story about Jesus who, when referring to the sacred texts, said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." It's also been said that he followed this up with something like, "That's all you need. The rest is just commentary." Likewise, everything I'm going to say has pretty much been said in a simple book about Milo and his magical stones. However, I hope the commentary will be useful. I would like to tell a tale of two stories. Stories on the metaphoric or mythological level have the power to shape our reality. The first story I'd like to bring to your awareness is what the writer Charles Eisenstein, in his book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, calls the story of separation. As a culture, we live in great disconnection. In my 20s, I enrolled in a Bachelor of Environmental Studies program because I was concerned about the number of environmental issues and I wanted to help find solutions. What I came to realize through my studies is that the environmental problems were really just symptoms of a much deeper problem, a problem of disconnection and separateness. Over the years, it became clear to me our culture has a deep disconnect from the environment. And that disconnection is a fallout from a culture of people who are disconnected from each other and disconnected from themselves. We live in a story of separation. Let's start with disconnection from self. We even articulate this each week with the chalice lighting that recognizes the flame as a symbol of the wholeness we seek. We have not yet realized our inherent wholeness. In a society, it seems many people are struggling with wholeness, struggling with mental health issues like anxiety or feelings of inadequacy. We even have a term, imposter syndrome, to capture the sense of, I'm not good enough. Addictions, which range from addiction to alcohol to addiction to shopping, are far too prevalent and are indicative of this lack of wholeness and are driven by an endless craving for something to make us feel whole. Buddhism has a concept called the hungry ghost. It's a mythical being with a big belly and a very tiny mouth. Because of this, it is constantly hungry, constantly craving, and can never get enough. On his first trip to North America, a Buddhist master, and I think it was the Dalai Lama, was asked to give an example to help explain the concept of hungry ghost. Without missing a beat, he responded, America. This insatiable need, the wanting to fill up a spiritual hole, is echoed by Maury Schwartz, as quoted in Mitch Albom's book, Tuesdays with Maury. Maury says, quote, wherever I went in life, I met people wanting to gobble up something new, gobble up a new car, gobble up a new piece of property, gobble up the latest toy. And then they wanted to tell you about it. These people were so hungry for love that they accepted substitutes, unquote. There is a need out there for something that most people cannot articulate and don't know how to fill. As a culture, we're very disconnected from one another. With few exceptions, people used to live in community where they knew their neighbors and were intimately connected through the very nature of needing to rely on each other to survive. Nowadays, many people don't know their neighbors. Stories of someone having died without anybody noticing until days later are common. And one of these deaths was in an office cubicle and nobody noticed for 3 days. Our technology, our always busy work ethic, and our extremely mobile culture all create a barrier to the regular interactions that develop a strong sense of community. Even surface connections like a brief little chit-chat with the cashier at the local grocery store is being diminished as online shopping and self-checkout lanes take away even those minute opportunities for connection. Jack Kornfield, a highly respected Buddhist teacher, writes, quote, we must look at how we have created and enforced separation. How have we made this a world of, I want this, I want to become that, this will make me safe, this will make me powerful. Race, nationality, age, and religion all enforce separation. Look into yourself and to see what is us and what is them for you. When there is a sense of us, then there is a sense of other. When we can give this up, then we can give up the idea that strength comes from having more than others, or from having the power to kill others. When we give this up, we give up the stereotype of love as a weakness, unquote. This othering, this labeling of a group of people as different, and the adoption of an us and them mentality shows up in the divided politics, social groups, ethnic groups, and racial groups around the world. The logical outcome of this othering is a breakdown of society into tribal groups, each ready to pick up weapons to defend their tribe from the outsiders. The extreme of this is genocide, where one group so successfully denigrates another that it becomes acceptable to kill with indifference. With this degree of disconnect, it is to be expected that there would be a disconnect with nature. In fact, the Cambridge Dictionary defines nature as, quote, all the animals, plants, rocks that exist independently of people. We have removed ourselves from nature. Our reductionist and mechanistic view of nature and human relationships tends to see everything for its economic value only. This viewing of all our interaction through the lens of economic efficiency has created a consumption-driven mindset where individual gain and glory is the goal. We have monetized the commons of the current and future generations. We monetize the natural world. We monetize relationships. We monetize our services to each other. Forests are only valuable if you cut down the trees. Charles writes, quote, when money is the goal, everything else that cannot be translated into its terms gets squeezed out. Nature is seen as something to be conquered, a series of useful resources that we can harvest at will. Letting economics determine the value of something leads to a breakdown of the whole into parts, and we lose the role of biodiversity and the interactions that create a healthy, resilient ecosystem. The lens of economic efficiency adds to all three types of disconnect. A disconnect which drives the need for Band-Aids. It forms the underlying conditions which create the social and environmental issues we have today. People are valuable if they can work and create profit. Work that is done for free, out of the goodness of our hearts, just doesn't get valued or counted. The idea that the worth of a person or a country, think about the gross domestic product, is the ultimate measure of success has led to gross inequity and environmental degradation. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer tells of the Wendigo, the legendary monster of the Anishinaabe people. A Wendigo is a human being who's become a cannibal monster with a hunger that can never be sated. She writes, quote, it is more than just a mythic monster intended to frighten children. The collective fears and deepest values of a people are also seen in the visions of the monsters they create. Born of our fears and failings, Wendigo is the name for that within us, which cares more for its own survival than for anything else, unquote. I reference this because Robin goes on to say, quote, on a grander scale, too, we seem to be living in an era of Wendigo economics, of fabricated demand and compulsive overconsumption. What Native people once sought to rein in, we are now asked to unleash in a systematic policy of unsanctioned greed. The fear for me is far greater than just acknowledging the Wendigo within. The fear for me is that the world has been turned inside out. The dark side seemed to made light. Indulgent self-interest that our people once held to be monstrous is now celebrated as success. We are asked to admire what our people once viewed as unforgivable. The consumption-driven mindset masquerades as quality of life, but it eats us from within. It is as if we've been invited to a feast, but the table is laid with food that nourishes only emptiness, the black hole of the stomach that never fills. We have unleashed a monster, unquote. Charles Eisenstein writes, quote, "The essence of the story of separation is the separate self in a world of other." He goes on to illustrate how these underlying factors create deep separation. He writes, quote, "Few of us would personally rob a hungry 3-year-old of his last crust of bread, or abduct his mother at gunpoint to work in a textile factory. But simply through our consumption habits and our participation in the economy, we do the equivalent every day." He argues that because of our distance from dying forests or hungry children, we do not know the source of our pain, but that doesn't mean we don't feel it. I would like to add that I think it's a fair hypothesis that much of the stress of modern life comes from the dim awareness that something isn't right and that we are part of the problem. So in exploring the story of separation, we need to acknowledge the areas where, as a society, we have become disconnected. Neighborhoods where people don't know their neighbors. Separation, or in some cases, segregation between rich and poor. Self-checkout stations where even the shallow interaction of a smile or "have a nice day" no longer occur. The same conditions that have given us an incredible level of individual freedom have created deep chasms in our sense of community. The mentality that accepts exploitation of resources and the exploitation of humans as acceptable because it generates more profit and makes us richer is counterproductive to the health of the planet and our own mental well-being. What we, in our modern culture, have created is the path to the first ending in the story of Milo. The question that remains is, how can we rewrite the ending of the story that we are currently in? We can rewrite the story of separation. We can deepen a path to connection. One way is through music and a recognition that we are all connected through the spirit of life, however you define that. Please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life. We also have rituals that foster connection. When we hold each other in intention, our relationships and bonds strengthen. Then we move from separation to greater compassion and connection. When we share the emotional highs and lows of our life, when we open a space for others to celebrate with us or to connect with us in compassion. I ask that the first candle be lit as a reminder of the suffering in the world and as a call to work for peace. You're welcome to join in by lighting a candle of joy or sorrow, and if you wish, you can come share your thoughts in a one breath sharing.
My name is Kathy. In many congregations across the country, they are celebrating All Saints' Day, where they light a candle in memory of a loved one, and chimes are played in that memory. My husband Norm died on March the 2nd, and this morning in a Sudbury congregation, they are lighting a candle in honor of him. And I'm lighting a candle today in honor of Norm, and also my mom, whose 10th anniversary of death is today.
I have lit a candle to remember the U.S. and what's happening this week.
I'm lighting a candle for a woman named Lori. I volunteered with her at Tiny Home Takeout. She was always cheerful and positive and eager to do anything that needed to be done. She was always making treats for us and specifically thought to bring me gluten-free treats all the time. Last week, she lost her battle with mental illness, and she'll be remembered.
Just be mindful.
My name is Ruth Gilbert, and I want to express a lot of thanks to the world right now because I have been introduced to something which is very healing to me and very happy about it. And it's called a terahertz machine. But also, I want to share that the dream auction, I really wanted to do something for the church. And so I have a plan for that. And I think it's coming together right now. And it would involve Jay, and I think Jay has agreed to this. It would also involve the board of the building I live in, and they're going to be talking about it in December. But what I wanted to do was have an event at my building where everybody is invited, and there's no cost. I mean, it's a dream auction thing, but you don't have to pay anything. But you can come and listen to Jay's music and look at a lot of the works of art that I happen to own that I want to share. And if you like any of them, you could do a silent bid on them. and then the money would go to the church, whoever wins the bid on any of this artwork. So that's just my idea, and right now I'm just waiting for the board to approve me to do this, and I'll find out in December, but that's about it. Thanks.
We'll light one more candle for all those joys and sorrows that are in our hearts, left unspoken. Another way we can begin to overcome this story of separation is through love, deep love, a love that encompasses all of life. Poet Victoria Erickson writes, quote, "Spend your hours being love, breathing it in and out, sitting beside trees and animals and good people, being love, not looking for it or desiring it, being, beaming, radiating, loving the world." Sometimes being love takes slowing down and being present here and now. To slow down and allow the interconnections to reveal themselves. To slow down.
child, slow down, child, slow down, child, slow down, child, slow down. Slow down and listen to the wind. All comes together, all falls apart, forming a new beating heart.
This could be a depressing service, except for one thing. The story of Milo has a second ending. In his book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, Charles Eisenstein also introduces the story of interbeing. Interbeing is a term coined by Thich Nhat Hanh that is catching on in many Western circles. Very basically, this doctrine teaches that no phenomena has an independent existence. Whatever is comes into existence because of factors and conditions created by other phenomena. When factors and conditions no longer support that existence, then that thing ceases to exist. The Buddha said, when this is, that is. From the arising of this comes the arising of that. When this isn't, that isn't. From the cessation of this comes the cessation of that. Charles writes, quote, the fundamental precept of the new story is that we are inseparate from the universe, and our being partakes in the being of everyone and everything else. Why should we believe this? Let's start with the obvious. This interbeing is something we can feel. Why does it hurt when we hear of another person coming to harm? Why, when we read of the mass die-off of the coral reefs and see their bleached skeletons, do we feel like we've sustained a blow? It is because it is literally happening to ourselves, our extended selves, unquote. In what ways can we embrace this idea of interbeing? How can we leave behind some of the structures that have led our society to a high degree of separation, the story of separation, and move towards a new story of greater connection? Charles continues, quote, a recognition of alliance is growing among people in diverse arenas of activism, whether political, social, or spiritual. The holistic acupuncturist and the sea turtle rescuer may not be able to explain the feeling we are serving the same thing, but they are. Both are in service to an emerging story of the people that is the defining mythology of a new kind of civilization. He says, quote, I call it the story of interbeing. It offers an entirely different set of answers to the defining questions of life. Here are some of the principles of the new story. That my being partakes of your being and that of all beings. This goes beyond interdependency. Our very existence is relational. That therefore, what we do to another, we do to ourselves. That we are fundamentally unseparate from each other, from all beings, and from the universe. Whether taken literally, that we are inseparate from each other, or taken metaphorically. What would our society look like if this were an attitude held by everyone? It would, in my opinion, take affirm and promote respect for the independent web of all existence to a whole new level. In Mitch Albom's book, Maury is quoted as saying, quote, "In the beginning of life, when we are infants, we need others to survive, right? And at the end of life, when you get like me, you need others to survive, right? But here's the secret. In between, we need others as well." The idea of interconnection is embedded in other cultures. In his book on restorative justice, Howard Zehr writes, quote, "In the Hebrew scriptures, this is embedded in the concept of shalom, the vision of living in a sense of all rightness with each other, with the Creator, and with the environment." Many cultures have a word that represents this notion of the centrality of relationships. For the Maori, it is communicated by wakapapa. For the Navajo, hoza. For many Africans, there is the Bantu word ubuntu. Although the specific meanings of these words vary, they communicate a similar message. All things are connected to each other in a web of relationships. Indigenous culture often finds profound teachings in nature. We can learn something about interbeing from nature. Who would have thought that the lichen can teach us an important lesson? Algae and fungus can live in symbiosis to form lichens. Together they can survive under the harshest conditions on Earth. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer documents an attempt by researchers to understand the factors that lead to this relationship that creates lichen. They put the fungus and the algae together in the lab and provided ideal conditions for both. Nothing happened. Both species ignored each other and went on living their separate lives. The researchers were puzzled and started to tinker with the habitat. Only when they created a harsh and stressful environment did the two species come together and cooperate. Robin writes, quote, "When times are easy and there's plenty to go around, individual species can go it alone. But when conditions are harsh and life is tenuous, it takes a team sworn to reciprocity to keep life going forward. In a world of scarcity, interconnection and mutual aid become critical for survival. So say the lichens." Are we not the same? How many examples have you witnessed or heard where a disaster brings people together as a community? When the chips are down, we humans know what to do. We instinctively know how to interbe. The stories that tell of the movement from separation to interbeing have been around for a long time. I keep finding more examples. I could have made this a 3-hour sermon, but I won't. I find examples from Buddhism, the Anishinaabe, Christianity, even Milo and the Magical Stones, and most recently, in the latest edition of the Good Work News from the Working Center in Kitchener, where Joe Mancini writes, quote, "Part of the rebuilding process is moving towards embracing the gaze of compassion, the practice of feeling the beautiful interconnections of trees, animals, soil, and humans. We are all in this together. It takes community to open our hearts to be the change we want to see." Charles also calls the story of interbeing a new and ancient story, for there is much wisdom from the past that we can draw on. These stories are all signposts pointing to a path, a way out of the maze of separation. Our seventh principle calls us to affirm and promote respect for the interdependence of all existence of which we are a part. Is that not a call for interbeing? What if we took this principle to its fullest and deepest interpretation? We are at a crossroads, the middle of Milo's book, and we need to decide which story is true, separation or interbeing. Our current way of thinking cannot take us there. There is no way to scientifically prove the validity of either path. Charles writes, quote, "Absent any conclusive evidence, you have to decide on some basis, such as which story is most aligned with who you truly are and truly want to be. Which story gives you the most joy?" The Dalai Lama says, "My religion is loving kindness," and he calls for a revolution, not a political revolution or a social revolution, but a spiritual revolution, a revolution based on love. If we can truly love one another, not just our family and friends, but find unconditional love for all humanity. If we can truly affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. If we can, as Victoria Erickson says, spend our hours being love. If we can tap into that well of underlying love, then maybe, just maybe, love will guide us towards a story of interbeing. Would you please rise and join me? Just as our presence here is another step on the path towards interbeing, the writings of many different people, some of whom I've quoted here today, have convinced me that there is hope for the future. They point to a path, an opening in the thorny woods of common current culture that leads to somewhere better. I don't know if humanity will take that path, but we can. Like Milo and his fellow mice, we do have an option. The question is, which will we choose? It is my hope that you find inspiration that lifts the clouds of despair that are so easily justifiable in today's world, and join the many that are taking steps into the new story. Steps that I truly believe can take us to that more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Let the people say,
Another day in the salt mines.
That's right.